Hi, this is Dr. Randy Hurst. I'm a psychologist. I don't know which videos you may have seen before. This is going to refer to others having to do with fire together, wire together, and kind of how the brain works. The kind of important. I'm referring to this as respond versus react, and the key here is that the brain is made with kind of deeper, some would say biologically older parts that react very quickly. In the case of some kinds of fear reactions, your body and your brain can react before you've seen something, before you've heard something. The message is going to the parts of the brain that decode what we're seeing or hearing, or take some processing in order to fully know what you've heard, to put together what you've seen. But before that, if they match, if the images or the sound matches certain things that in our past trigger a fear memory, that part of the brain can react way quicker than we know, so to speak. And you get this fight or flight reaction. Well, similarly, there's almost a next door part of the brain that can react to positives, to reward, to dopamine, is the neurotransmitter that's in the brain that triggers this dopamine. And if you have a history of activities that really get the dopamine going, one of these can be drug use. The part of the brain that can react, we tend to call it anticipation or expectation of using again. That can react before we know what we're reacting to. And the key here is that fast reacting brain can't think. And that's huge, because many of the things that cause problems come from these reactions and following our gut. Well, these gut reactions, these gut feelings, don't think. And so we can end up doing things that hurt us in time if we've done it long enough, gotten into drugs deep enough, into drinking heavy enough, into compulsive eating, into gambling. We're into fear reactions, where we're reacting to the fear, and we don't even know for sure if there's a threat. Some of the, as I've said in one of the other videos about anxiety and fear reactions, in modern life, there's a lot of these things that aren't real dangers, but our brains still react as if we're out in the jungle, so to speak. And it's important, if you needed it, to have that reaction. On the appetitive things, on the addiction things, it's probably not all that important, but that gut feeling, that reward or that fear can take over, and we can follow it, especially, as you've heard in other videos, if we don't follow the pattern of fear avoidance, or follow the pattern of using, eating, gambling when the gut hits us. That's what we want to do. It doesn't feel right. And especially if there's an addiction where you go through withdrawal, that really doesn't feel right. So how do you look at living wherever you are now, hopefully without any of those severe problems? How do you look at something that you recognize, geez, that could build into a problem? Is avoid some of the things that seem to be taught these days of, trust your gut. It's a problem if what you're trusting is this fast reacting, pre-thinking or non-thinking part of the brain. those gut emotions or gut reactions. Again, they can be important in certain situations, but mostly, since they don't think, unless you're in real danger immediately, it's important to step back and okay, what's the right thing to do here? It doesn't take a lot of time. You can know pretty quickly, oh, I don't want to go down that road again. But in other cases, you do have to stop and think, and well, what is the right thing to do here? Well, what will be good if I keep doing this? Will it be good 10 years from now, or will it be a problem years from now? Would I want my kid to do it? We can be a little bit of distance physically or in time and say, oh, that wasn't a good idea, or that wouldn't be a good idea. And how do you trust and do what the thinking part of your brain says, oh, that would be a better place to go, better way to go, better choice. It isn't an easy thing, because the gut wants us to go here. We go, oh, that's gonna set for trouble. One of the ways is to have a good sense of where you're going, of what you want to be about, what you want your future to be about, to the extent that we don't always have full control, but we do have good control of what kind of person we think we want to be. What do we want to address life? Who do we want to be involved with? What kinds of things do we want to be known as? One of the exercises we used to have people do in treatment is have them write the obituary that they would like to be able to have or be written about them. And that's a way of describing what you're about, or what you want to be about, of knowing what's important. And are you doing those things now? And if you're not, really stepping back from the gut reactions and going, wait a minute, is this leading down the path that I want to be known as or about? Is this who I am? And early on, if you're making major changes in your life, that whole thing is a struggle. One, the struggle is just stopping yourself and stepping back. And then two is thinking about the right thing to do for the long run. And then three is the doing it when it sometimes it really feels very mechanical. But it's the new doing that is the firing together of nerve cells that helps do the rewiring. Because if you go by how you feel, you're going to go with the old patterns. Because the old patterns have been wired together for months, years, decades. And those can feel right even if the head knows they're not right. So putting yourself in those situations where you're making yourself uncomfortable, doing the right things, knowing, okay, it's going to be a while for my brain to rewire into these new patterns, and it won't feel right for a while until I've done it quite a while. And you'll have little successes. But one of the things I learned years ago in learning theory was what they called spontaneous recovery. So those old patterns, they weren't talking about them as patterns the way I am now, but those old patterns can just pop back. In fact, one of the things I worked for years in the alcohol and drug treatment field is they refer to something they call HALT. Don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Or, basically overdone or stressed. Because when we have fewer resources, it's real easy for those old, deep patterns to kick in and want to go to an old way of coping. And to recognize, whoa, that's a reaction. That's a non-thinking, because it's an automatic, kind of an autopilot reaction. Whoa, got to do the new thing. and take that deep breath, slow down, step back, and do the new thing, even if it feels just put on. Yeah, there's an old saying, fake it till you make it. Well, I'm talking about, it can feel like fake it, but you're doing the new thing so that the new wiring can start growing and building. Simple, not easy, but think about it and see what parts of your patterns you want to not have anymore. And what would be a good, productive pattern or behaviors to add to your life that you want to do more of, so that that new thing can start the wiring process. And I wish that there was a way to, literally plug in wires or have the circuits figured out and do it quickly. It doesn't happen that way. It's really about doing. One possibility, just to put it out there, is that some of the antidepressant and other medications that don't have immediate highs or connected to them, they can help. But one of the dilemmas is that people can rely on the medication and not change other things. And so the real key is changing behavior, medication or not. And so if the medication does help, really focus on changing the behavior. If you're trying to avoid taking a medication or not like the side effects of it, talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist or whoever about whether to try without meds. But there's good reasons that the meds can be helpful. The real key is that the behavior changes are the ones that ultimately will be the help in building a new life. Okay. Remember, to recap, step away from the emotions, step away from the reactions that don't think, the fast things that can lead to trouble, because that part of the brain doesn't think. And think, well, what is the right thing? Oh, I do have to say one thing. There's some writing out there. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book. What was it called? But he focused on intuition, and really there is a part of the brain that really can do well with the fire together, wire together, and that's when you've got a very repeating pattern, a skill that you've learned, a decision points that you've made hundreds to thousands of times, that you might be in a new situation that doesn't quite fit, but you just get this feeling. That can be good because it's based on real conditioning, real patterning, and you're in a new situation that's vague, you're not sure about. But I just wouldn't rely on this except in overlearned situations where you can use that intuition in a new situation. Mostly, step back and think about what's good in the long run for you. And what would you be proud of if your own kid or a loved one did? And see if you can get yourself doing those things. Love yourself, parent yourself in those same ways. Okay, hope this makes sense. Check out the other videos that make sense to try to check out.